Evergreen Heart. By Oprian. Chapter 27. Hijinks on the High Seas. Prince Blueblood walked through the corridors of Canterlot Castle. He had just received a summons from his aunt, and it didn't take a genius to figure out why. He knew that Anta maintained a spy network. As shady as such a thing sounded, it was a necessary evil. To maintain the security of Equestria. He came upon the great double doors of the throne room. The masons, smiths, and carpenters had done excellent work on the repairs. One would never guess that Luna had blasted both doors off their hinges with enough force to partially shatter the stonework around them and warp part of the iron door frame. The guards on either side of the doors gave him a bow of respect before pulling the doors open. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. Celestia sat on her throne atop the dais, looking regal and radiant as she always does. She regarded him with a smile that did not quite reach her eyes though. As he stepped forward, the doors closed behind him, and a soundproofing spell went up around the room. It was to be a private audience then. "You called for me, Princess," he said as he halted at the foot of the dais. "Indeed I did, nephew. Welcome. How can I be of service to Equestria, Princess? I find myself with something of a mystery on my hooves." "What kind of mystery, Princess?" "The mystery of how Aaron suddenly disappeared into thin air, when I had my most trusted informer keeping an eye on him. And you were hoping I could shed some light on this event?" "Frankly yes, considering that you were the one last seen talking to him." "Are you spying on me as well?" "Spying is such an ugly word. I am merely looking out for you, nephew. By having some pony monitor my every move," he said with mounting outrage. "Nephew, you are part of the royal family. For your own safety there has always been some pony watching out for you. And what of my privacy? What of my personal life? I assure you, discretion is—" "Screw discretion, Princess. I don't want your spies sticking their muzzle into my personal affairs." Celestia held up a hoof. "Enough, we can discuss that in detail later. I summoned you here to explain your actions. You helped Aaron evade the crown." "Why? All I did, Princess, was help a friend in need. Like a good pony should. You taught me that yourself. As far as I am aware, there are no outstanding bounties, fines or warrants on Aaron's name. So at the time I saw no reason whatsoever to deny him help." Celestia let out a tired sigh. "I never doubted that your heart was in the right place, dear nephew. But you must understand, Aaron is a dangerous individual. Only when provoked, your highness. But are any of us so different? Would you not do anything in your power to protect those you care about? Or protect yourself when someone threatens your very life?" She could not deny it. She would do almost anything to protect her little ponies. "You are right, nephew. But as ruler and protector of Equestria I must always consider the greater good. I cannot sit idle and let Aaron roam free. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one individual. My own included. I made that choice once before when I banished Luna to the moon. And now I have to do it again. Princess, please. Aaron is not evil. Look at his actions thus far. When he was arrested he could have run, but he didn't. He put his trust in our laws. And when they sent him to jail he chose to serve his sentence. He could have escaped at any time if he so wished, but he chose not to. When Discord escaped, Aaron could have joined him, or vanished to the far corners of Equus. But he didn't. He chose to stay and fight. He chose to fight for us. Even at the risk of his own life. Yes, but— And then there was the incident with the star spiders. Princess Luna told us all about that night, do you remember?" An involuntary shudder went through Celestia. Luna's retelling had been detailed and graphic. She even showed her battle with the spider matriarch in the dreamscape. Celestia had launched a full investigation into the incident afterwards, trying to find the cause of the spider's unusual behavior. But Luna's Stella Magna spell had obliterated the site so thoroughly that no evidence of outside influence could be recovered. The cause remained a mystery. If Aaron hadn't been there, a dozen more lives would have been lost that night. And who knows how many more in the aftermath, before we finally discovered the nest. Blue Blood continued. He's trying to do the right thing, Your Highness. And I believe that given the chance he could be a great boon to Equestria. But if we keep treating him like a pariah, he might turn his back on us. Nephew, she said, her tone shifting from that of the royal matriarch to a caring mother as she hugged him close with her wing, their shoulders touching. I know that in his heart, Aaron is a good stallion. No truly evil being would risk his life to protect a little foal. I trust his intentions are good. But inside him lurks a power, a very dark power, that, by his own admission, he can't control. It is that power I seek to contain. To do nothing would be folly. So please, Blue Blood, tell me where he is. Blue Blood let out a tired sigh. It's already too late, Auntie. As we speak, Aaron sails across the Celestial Sea, to Zebrica. Why there? Because he believes they can help him gain control. And what do you believe, nephew? I don't know, Auntie. But he is a friend, and I choose to believe in my friends. You have a good heart, nephew. It's because I had a good teacher to show me the way. He said as he gently gave her chest a nuzzle. She gave him one final hug with her wing before breaking contact. Run along now, nephew. I need time to consider what you said. As you wish, Auntie. As Blue Blood left the throne room and the doors closed behind him, Celestia let out a tired sigh. Borealis, I have a task for you. The stallion emerged from the shadows behind her throne and bowed. I stand ready, my princess. What would you have me do? Go to the head office of the AMO and get me Agent Sweetie Drops. The great trade galleon pushed through the waves like a big ponderous whale. It was a beautiful day. Celestia's sun was warm and bright, and the skies were clear of any clouds. The sea itself was gentle and calm, despite the stiff breeze that was nice and cool. And I couldn't give a flying fuck about any of it because I felt sick as a dog. Now before you ask me if I got seasick, and how the hell that's possible without a stomach, let me tell you this was not seasickness. I noticed the first signs as we got out to the open sea 2 days ago. I felt a strange sense of fatigue that I haven't felt since my transformation. At first I chalked it up to nerves or stress or some such, considering my state of mind the past week. But the further we got from the shore the stronger it became. As for what's causing it, I can certainly speculate. If I had to guess, I'd say my condition is directly related to my distance from solid ground. It wasn't so bad when we were in the shallows, but here on the open ocean my connection to the earth is seemingly at its weakest. And it made me feel like I had a serious case of the flu. You know the drill, feeling tired, achy joints, hard to focus. Fortunately the sun's rays helped to stave off the worst of the effect, so I made it a point to stay on deck as much as possible. It would seem I've found another weakness of my current form. Wait, would that mean that if Celestia banished me to the moon I would die? And before you say, "Do you idiot, it's the goddamn moon, nothing can survive there, besides a certain princess." I meant, would my link to the world be completely severed because of the enormous distance, resulting in my powers cutting out completely and thus my death? Ugh, what a morbid thought to start the day on. I turned away from the sea, leaned against the railing and observed the going-ons of the crew. They were a diverse lot. True, the majority of the crew consisted of ponies of all types, and not just all stallions either. There were plenty of mares among the crew. There were also a couple of diamond dogs working for Captain Seaspray, and the ship's bosun was a salty old minotaur by the name of Steel Anchor. What is it with minotaurs and having names related to metals anyway? I left that question for another time and watched the crew at work. To be honest, I had no real clue what they were all doing. I've never been on a ship before, and I know bugger all about sailing except from what I've seen in pirate movies. And we all know how reliable movies are as a source of information. One thing that some movies got right apparently is that sailors love a good song or two. Because the crew were belting out a tune together as they worked. Or maybe it's just because they're ponies. We all know how much ponies like to burst into song. There were even a couple of them playing a fiddle and an accordion. I wasn't really feeling up to joining in with the song. That and I didn't know the lyrics. So I just watched and listened. And then one voice in particular cut through the others. Trixie had joined them. She came walking up the steps that led down into the crew deck where our bunk was. Her steps were steady as a rock. As if she'd been on a ship all her life. Her mane blew in the breeze as she half walked half danced across the deck, singing her heart out. I couldn't help but crack a smile. I had been worried that she would be utterly miserable on this trip, since she pretty much dropped everything just to help me out. But she seemed to be in good spirits. "Morning, Trixie." I greeted her as she danced up besides me. "You're very chipper today." "Morn threeing." She sing-songed. "And why shouldn't I be? It's a lovely day, and we're on our way to see a whole new country." Trixie has dreamed of traveling abroad since she was a filly. Think of all the things I could learn. When we're done in Zebrica, Trixie's magic show will be better than ever. Trixie will become the greatest showmare in history. "Well, it's nice to see you so optimistic." She leaned on the railing and stared at the waves. For a long time, Trixie, I was running from my problems. Thinking there was nothing I could do to change things, and blaming others for my misfortune. But since I met you, I've come to realize what's most important to me. And I will do everything I can to hang on to those things. Glad I could help. After all, what are friends for if not helping each other out? Right, her smile vanished as she spoke. Something wrong? I looked her straight in the eyes. If something's bothering you, you know I'll help, right? After all, you're my free. Forget it, idiot. She said as she pushed off of the railing and walked away. Leaving me confused. "You me boy might be the densest bugger I ever laid me eyes on," said a voice to my left. I turned to come face to face with Captain Seaspray. "What the hell are you talking about? Me eyes might not work as well as they did 20 years ago, lad, but even I can see the lady fancies you." "Wait, what? Stop pulling my leg, man, we're just friends. Do ya have an acorn for a brain, boy? She's smitten with ya, I tell ya. Haven't ya noticed how she gets all flustered when ya say something nice to her? How she drops that whole third-person speech she's got going when it's just you two? The glances she steals when she thinks ya ain't lookin'. Don't tell me ya haven't noticed none of that. That doesn't have to mean anything. Lad, now you're just being stubborn and daft. You can't be right. What the heck does she even see in me? Damned if I know, laddie. I've only known the two of you for 2 days. Besides, 'tis not for this old soul to know the way the fairer sex thinks. But I do know that it's not nice o' ya to keep her hangin' like that." He turned to leave. "I suggest ya think long and hard about how ya feel about her, lad, but best not take too long, she won't wait forever." To say I was left in a state of utter confusion was an understatement. Trixie actually liked me? As in liked me? What the hell? This has to be some kind of cruel joke, right? Seaspray must be taking me for a fool, right? But, what if it's true? What if Trixie likes me as more than a friend? The question gnawed at me all morning and well into the afternoon. The more I looked back on it, the more obvious it became that Trixie did indeed seem to like me as more than just a friend. The memory of our dance at the gala seemed like an obvious clue in hindsight. How the hell did I miss the signals? But why? And do I feel the same way? She's a pastel-colored mini horse. And I am Groot. What sort of future could we possibly have together? What the heck does she even see in me? I don't even know how long I will live, exist, whatever. And what if this is all just a little crush on her side? Does it matter? A little voice at the back of my mind seemed to say. If you look past the uncertainties, if you ignore outside appearances, then how do you feel about her? She may be a tiny little horse, but in her heart she's just like any other young woman. Can you look past what she is, and love her for who she is? How do I feel about her? Well, she's actually quite funny. She's charming when she wants to be, and underneath her chômeur exterior she's kinda sweet too. She's strong-willed and unafraid to voice her opinion. Brave, but not foolhardy. And surprisingly gentle when it counts. She's talented, but she lacks confidence, hiding her uncertainty beneath a layer of pomp and bluster. But with a little encouragement she shines through every time. And she has a cheeky streak that I find endearing. Could I love somebody, like that? Could I? Yes, I think I could. Shifting into my own pony form, I went to look for her. Now would be as good a time as any to lay it all out and see where we actually stood. We have at least another week's worth of travel left on this boat, and I for one don't want to spend it in awkward silence and tiptoeing around each other. I looked around the deck first. I was hoping she would still be up here somewhere, but she was nowhere to be found. Reluctantly I went below decks, away from the sun. The moment I went below I could feel my body grow heavy. Like someone dropped a bag of bricks on my shoulders. I looked in the galley first, since a lot of the crew tended to hang out there when off duty. But she wasn't there either. We weren't allowed in the hold, so that left only one place. Most of the crew slept in hammocks and bunks. Since the ship had limited space, there were only a few cabins, separate from the rest of the crew deck. Most of these belonged to the ship's officers. But there was one vacant one that the captain kept for special passengers. It was the one Trixie and I shared. It only had the one bunk though, and no space to put up a hammock. I quietly pushed open the door, finding Trixie lying in our bunk, facing away from the door. I stepped inside and closed the door. "Do you have a moment? I was hoping we could talk." All I got in reply was a non-committal hum. I slowly walked up, then climbed into the bunk myself, rather than stand there awkwardly. I could feel her tense up as I slid up against her. This was the first time I had actually shared the bunk with her. I spent the last few days awake at night so she could have it to herself. It was a bit awkward since these bunks weren't very big. I had to sort of spoon up against her for us to both fit. "What are you?" she began, but I quietly shushed her. "I had a talk with the captain this morning after you left," I said as I settled down. "He made me realize what a colossal blind idiot I've been." She didn't say anything, but I could hear and feel her breath quickening. "Trixie. Are you?" I hesitated. What if this was all wrong? What if? No. Fuck that. Time to pony up. "Trixie, are you in love with me?" A silent gasp, her body went rigid. She was holding her breath, I could feel her heart hammering against her ribs. "Trixie." Yes, her voice was barely above a whisper. So quiet I almost missed it. For a while neither one of us said anything. It gave her a chance to catch her breath and calm down. Slowly her heart returned to a normal, if still slightly nervous rhythm. "Please don't take this the wrong way, but why?" I asked. She rolled over onto her back and turned her head to look at me. "What do you mean why? What sort of question is that? Why do you love me? I'm not even a pony." "So? Trixie doesn't care." She took a deep breath, turning her eyes towards the ceiling. "Since that day you met Trixie, on the road you've always been kind. You encouraged me to be a better pony and went out of your way to help me." She stared at the ceiling some more. I kept silent so she could gather her thoughts. Eventually she let out a shaky breath. "At first it was just a silly crush. Here I was, down on my luck, and in comes this weird yet strangely rugged stallion, who turns out isn't a stallion at all, swooping in to lend a hoof. And then you convinced me to come back to Ponyville, to put things behind me once and for all. She craned her neck to look at me. I didn't plan to stick around long, not at first. As soon as my wagon was complete I would say my goodbyes and be gone. But as the weeks passed, and the more time we spent together, the thought of leaving appealed to me less and less. And when I asked myself why, I realized it's because I wanted to stick with you. She rolled over completely and placed a hoof on my cheek. You made me feel welcome, made me feel safe. No matter where Trixie went I always felt the need to hide behind a mask. Behind the Trixie who performs on the stage. But with you, for the first time I felt like I could just be myself. I realized I didn't have to hide who I am. You've seen the best and worst of me already. With you, I feel like I belong. And that's something I didn't want to give up. That's why I decided to stick with you. Trixie. I wanted to say something, but she kept going, so I let her. I realize that sounds a bit selfish. But I really do care about you. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like you need me. And I need you. I don't care if you are a pony or not. I care about you. And I hope you feel the same about me. She looked me in the eyes. Her own eyes shimmering with both hope of acceptance, and fear of rejection. I placed my hoof on hers. Taking a moment to gather my own thoughts and how to best put it all into words. To be honest, up till this morning I never even considered the possibility of a relationship. I'm a stranger in a strange land. I look as alien to all of you as you do to me. How could any pony possibly be interested in a relationship with a walking talking pile of twigs? The idea of finding love seemed so ludicrous to me that I was blind to every little hint you dropped over the last months. Until the captain bluntly pointed it out to me. I gave her my best smile as I gave her hoof a little squeeze. I spent the whole day thinking about it, about us. And I've come to realize that I like you for who you are, and that it doesn't matter what you are so long as your feelings for each other are genuine. You may be a unicorn, a very beautiful unicorn, a creature I only know from legends and folklore, but that doesn't matter. What's important is what's in here. I gently touched her forehead underneath her horn. And here, I placed my hoof over her heart. In every way that truly counts. The only way that counts, you are everything I could hope for. So yes, Trixie, I guess I feel the same way. And though I can't promise you things will work out between us, I can promise to give this my best try. Because I think you're worth it. Will you be my special some pony? Her eyes lit up like twin suns. So great was her joy that if there were any changelings around they would have spontaneously combusted. She pulled me upright and enveloped me in a bone-crushing hug. After a full 5 minutes she finally let go. Well, now that this whole awkward confession is behind us, would you like to get some fresh air? No, she said as she wiped her eyes with her fetlock. They had grown a bit misty during our hug. There is something Trixie needs to do. Something she has been waiting for a long time now. Before I could ask her what that was she leaned forward, and kissed me. It felt strange to kiss with a muzzle for a mouth. But it didn't matter. Because that first, awkward kiss said everything our words could not. This had been the right choice. The front door of the Blessed Fields mansion shut with an audible clack. Flash Sentry took off his guard helmet and shook his head. Those helmets were so incredibly uncomfortable, especially with a mane. They became itchy very fast. Putting the helmet on a coat rack he proceeded into the main dining room. I'm back. He called out. Thrax. Willowvine bellowed. Where in the blazes have you been? You were supposed to be back an hour ago. I was doing my job. He snarked, his voice growing more guttural. Your job was to assist me. No, that is only part of my duties. The general gave me specific instructions. What sort of instructions? Why wasn't I informed? Because he felt you did not need to know at the time. This is my mission. I demand to know what you were up to, she said, stomping her hoof. Or else what? Posing as a noble for so long has clearly gone to your head. I'm warning you, Thrax. He stared her down with disdain. Do you imagine that I'm afraid of you? You are just a scout. While I am a Praetorian. I was bred for battle. I could crush you before you could get a single spell off. He stared her down for close to a full minute. Eventually she looked away. You were wrong, by the way. He snorted. About what? The amulet is not in the castle. What? But it must be. Celestia would not let something that dangerous out of her sight. I was on patrol all night and all morning. I swept every inch of the castle with the haruspex, as you should have done in the first place. It is not here. I doubt it is even in Canterlot. No, no, that can't be right. If that is so, I might never find it in time. The general will be most displeased with you, yes. I have to widen the search. I need to hire more agents. Track down leads. I'll need hush money. Bribes. Do as you wish, I have my own orders. What orders? What could possibly be more important than this right now? If it will cease your bugging of me, my job is to break the Moon Princess. Make her doubt her own sanity, render her incapable of acting, so that when the time comes, she won't get in the way. Your oh so important task is to play mind games. It's what we do, isn't it? He said with a snide chuckle. Now excuse me, I need a shower. She looked at his retreating form as he left the room and walked up the stairs. Damn, I love my job, were his last words before he vanished up the stairs, and all she heard was wicked laughter. Trixie and I finally got back on deck about an hour before sunset. We'd spent a good deal of the afternoon snuggled up against each other. If you think human couples enjoy just vegging on a couch together, then let me tell you they got nothing on ponies. The way Trixie just leaned into me, all cozy and content, it was just adorable. And something I could definitely get used to. I'm surprised she didn't start purring like a kitten. We talked, but only for a short while. All the important things had been said for the moment, and everything else could wait. Above all else, she just wanted to be close, and I was more than happy to oblige. Her presence is soothing. Even if it still feels a bit strange to me. It's been a long time since I was in a relationship of any kind. As I said before, I'd pretty much given up all hope of ever finding someone. And then along comes this little blue magician, enchanting my heart without me even noticing. Ugh, I'm getting sappy. Oh gods, that's a terrible pun. Stop it, brain. I'm warning you. Eventually I did have to get up, much to her protest. I really needed to soak up a few more rays of sunlight before dark. That's how we found our way to the aft deck. The low sun in the sky made the sea sparkle as if it was made of liquid gold. The tranquil atmosphere on deck was shattered by a cry from the crow's nest. Captain, sail ho! Looks like she's shadowing us. Are ye certain, lass? Sea Spray hollered back. She keeps just below the horizon, I bet she's waiting for dark to make her approach. What colors does she sail under? I couldn't tell, Captain, it's too far to see, I was lucky to spot her at all. Helm's Colt. Change course, take us due south. Aye, sir. Yelled the pony at the wheel. Keep a weather eye, if she is indeed shadowing us we'll soon know. The captain called up to the lookout. Problem, Captain? I asked. I don't wanna alarm yet, but this region is rife with piracy. Which is why we have the no lights on deck after 8 in the evening rule. We don't wanna be a visible target. Now it could be nothing, but we need to be cautious. Anything we can do to help? Trixie asked. Nay, just keep your heads down and don't get in the way of the crew. If anything changes I will let ye know. I turned my eyes to the horizon, but I could see nothing. Even if my enhanced senses weren't weakened right now I doubt I would have been able to spot the ship. Eventually the sun set. I wanted to stay on deck during the night to keep an eye out, but Trixie had other plans. Dragging me back to our bunk so she'd have some pony to snuggle up against in her sleep. It's funny, now that I know what to look for, I remember all the moments over the last months where she was trying to get my attention. Her acting all shy and flustered. Man, was I ever so blind. But now that our feelings were out in the open, she wasn't shy about them at all, making it crystal clear what she wanted from me. Talk about doing a 180 in attitude. And so I found myself back in our bunk. Spooned up to her, listening to the sound of her breath while she slumbered peacefully. I'd made it a point not to stare at ponies during the night while they slept, because it seemed like a creepy thing to do. But watching Trixie, my mare friend, sleep, that felt okay. Mare friend. I really am going native, aren't I? She mumbles something unintelligible in her sleep. Her front legs kicking slightly. Darn it, she's almost like an adorable puppy. I gently nuzzle her neck. You've given your heart to me. I only hope I prove worthy of it. The sound of ponies running across the deck rouses me from my slumber. I don't even remember when I fell asleep. It's rare for me to fall into my sleep state without consciously shutting down. It's still early morning by the looks of it. The sun's rays are peeping in through the tiny window on the far wall. Next to me, Trixie rises too. Her mane is a bit messy and her coat looks slightly ruffled. She rubs a fetlock across her eyes. What time is it? She asks sleepily. No idea, I just woke up myself. She let out a loud yawn. What's with all the ruckus? I don't know, but I suggest we go and find out. Trixie shakes herself fully awake, and we emerge from our cabin into the chaos of the ship. Ponies and diamond dogs are rushing to and fro. I grab one of the dogs by the arm. His name was Gruff, if I remember correctly. What's happening? Pirates, Griffin pirates. They be almost on us. Captain says make ready. Well, that sure got the old adrenaline pumping. Or whatever passes for adrenaline in my body these days. I'm instantly alert. Pushing through the throng to reach the stairs to the deck. Trixie is right behind me. We emerge into the chill morning air amidst a swarm of activity. Ponies and dogs are securing lines, tying down supplies, and hoisting cannons and deck guns into position. Since our a trade ship, we only have a handful of black powder weapons. They are apparently a Minotaur invention. Ponies prefer bows, crossbows, and ballistae. Which is why those are the most common in Equestria. But these trade ships prefer a more exotic blend of armaments. Speaking of Minotaurs, Steel Anchor is bellowing orders as only a Minotaur can. His voice easily rising above the noise of activity to direct the crew to where they are most needed. I make my way to the aft deck railing and look out across the ocean. I can see a ship some distance away. It's a swift three-master. Far less bulky than our ship, with aggressive lines and red sails. Dozens of odd, bird-like shapes fly around it. Griffins, says Captain Seaspray as he comes up next to me. They approached during the night as we suspected. We've been trying to shake them all morning, but me ship be a ponderous lady. They will catch up soon. They've been raiding ships in these waters for months now. And nobody has done anything about it. Equestria has only a hoof full of warships, lad, they are stretched very thin. The Griffins on the other hoof have dozens upon dozens, but they are very lax about actually patrolling these waters. They don't really care if others are troubled by piracy, so long as their own ships be safe. ITSSK in disgust. Typical. Now lad, do ya have any combat experience? I don't wanna alarm yet or your loss but when them beakheads get here 'tis gonna be ugly business. If ya don't know how to fight, I suggest ya go back below. I almost wanna laugh at his question. Do I have combat experience? If only he knew. We can handle ourselves, Captain. Just tell us where you want us. The captain has us stay on the midship with some of his best men. Our task pretty much boils down to go where the fighting is heaviest and lend support. I gather what little power I have and transform into my hulking humanoid form. A wave of what I can only describe as nausea blasts through me as the transformation completes and I stagger slightly. My limbs feel heavy. Of all the places to fight, this has to be the worst one for me. No soil, no plants, no nothing to work with but my own body and its brute strength. And even that seems diminished. Another feeling settles into the pit of my non-existent stomach. It takes me a moment to realize its fear. I've been scared before, but this is different. I fear the outcome of this fight, but not for my own sake. My gaze drifts to Trixie. For hers. She gives me a confident smile as she looks up at me, placing a hoof against my leg. I steel my resolve. Anything that tries to get near her is gonna die screaming. That's a promise. We wait for what feels like hours. The Griffin ship slowly gaining on us. They are trying to come alongside so they can cripple us with a broadside and chain shot. Says Anchor as he hoists a cutlass big enough to cleave a pony in two. I can see the Griffins clearly now as they fly between the masts of their ship, beating their wings to create more wind. Our Pegasi are doing the same, trying to coax a little more speed out of our sails. Suddenly a cannon booms. The cannonball splashes harmlessly into the sea, well away from us. Someone on their crew must have gotten a bit overeager. One of our own crew, a diamond dog, was aiming a blunderbuss at the enemy ship, but before he could fire Steel Anchor bonked him on the head with a meaty fist. Hold fast you swab. Don't go shooting until you can see the white of their eyes lest you waste shot and powder. Sorry boss, the dog whined as he rubbed his head. Only about 100 meters between us now. Close enough to hear them yelling at us. Though it's impossible to make out what they are shouting. The distance grows ever smaller. I crack my knuckles out of habit, even though I have no actual joints to pop. The tension around us grows thick enough to cut with a knife. Closer still. The beast stirs at the back of my mind, sensing the imminent violence. I ignore it for now. Its presence is weak, just like my powers. Make ready, the call rings out. Fire. Cannons volley and thunder, spitting flame and lead. The shots cross the divide in less than a heartbeat. Wood explodes into splinters as the cannonballs tear through the ship. I turn to shield Trixie from the debris. Chunks of wood slam into my back and bounce off. A diamond dog goes down, impaled by a chunk of wood. A second volley thunders through the air. This time they're shooting chain shot. 2 cannonballs tied together with steel chain. They tear through the sails and rigging, ripping the top off the forwardmost mast. Stand to. Repel boarders. Bellows Steel Anchor, raising his blade. They descend on us, shrieking like the eagles that make up part of their anatomy. 2 dozen at least. Dropping out of the sky like razor-taloned comets. Beside me, Trixie unleashes her pyrotechnic spell, sending a blast of fireworks into the air and knocking one of the Griffins down and into the drink. Our Pegasi move to engage the rest in aerial combat, but they are at a disadvantage, having no natural weapons. More Griffins leap from their ship and touch down on our deck, blades drawn. The ring of steel striking steel fills the air as combat is joined. I too jump into the fray. Avast you scurvy bitches! I shout as I clobber the nearest Griffin with one of my oversized fists, knocking him senseless. Everything's a blur and cacophony as fighting erupts from stem to stern. Cries of battle join cries of pain as ponies and Griffins alike fall with their bellies sliced open or run through. The fighting is brutal as neither side gives quarter. Griffins and Pegasi zoom over our heads in a high-speed dogfight around the ship, ducking and weaving through the rigging in an attempt to make the other crash. A few unbesieged crewmen try to take shots at the attackers, but only manage to put more holes into the sails. I knock a Griffin overboard with a bone-shattering uppercut. The cannons thunder for a third time. A chain shot slams into the main mast, tearing a giant chunk out of the wood. The wood groans as it starts to splinter and crack. I unleash my powers, vines shooting from my body and up the mast to reinforce it before the entire thing collapses. Nausea shoots through me and I fall to my knees. Trixie is instantly at my side, eyes wide with worry. She's saying something, but I can't hear her. My magical senses are shorting out. It's like I've got static in both my eyes and my ears. A griffin climbs over the railing and charges us, but she blasts it back with a bolt of magic. Finally the debilitating feeling passes and I'm able to regain my footing. I'm okay. I tell her as she turns back to me. Can you take out their cannons? I'll try. She shouts and gallops to the railing, horn igniting. I make sure she's safe while she takes aim. Picking up a gaff hook, I swing it round and partially impale a griffin, throwing him overboard. I look around, the fight is going poorly. It's obvious that the griffins are the superior fighters. Steel Anchor is barely holding his own against two assailants. Swinging his cutlass in a cleaving arc. He misses and leaves himself wide open. Two blades slam into his ribs and he lets out a tortured bellow, spitting blood. I can't leave Trixie's side, instead I throw the gaff hook like a harpoon with all the strength I can muster. The hook slams into one of the griffin's heads and tears the left side of his skull clean off. He hits the floor dead, his brain splattering all over the deck. Trixie unleashes her spell. A fireball streaks across the water, but rather than hit the gun deck her shot is thrown off by the motion of the ocean and slams into the ship's aft deck, setting part of the aft castle ablaze. The cannons thunder yet again, and the deck below our feet explodes into splinters. We fall. I hit the water with a splash and briefly go under. The salt water stings like rubbing alcohol in a cut. I break the surface and frantically look about. Trixie! Trixie, where are you? Here, comes her voice to my left. She's treading water but seems unharmed, much to my relief. Swim for the ship. Things are looking bleak. That last volley set our ship on fire too. There's a loud groan as the damaged mast finally collapses. My repairs unable to hold it up any longer. It falls backwards and tears the aft sail down with it. The ship isn't going anywhere now. A shriek draws my attention. A griffin has snatched Trixie out of the water and is carrying her to their ship. Anger explodes in my chest and I swim for the griffin ship. I manage to reach it and pound my fists into the hull. But the wood is too sturdy to break. I don't have the strength. I lash out with a vine and grab hold of the railing, hoisting myself up the side. Trixie is struggling, fighting against two griffins who are trying to bind her legs. I roar as I try to climb over the railing to attack. Trixie manages to break free of her attackers, who are spooked by my sudden appearance. She runs towards me, her attackers hot on her heels. Look out, she screams. There's an ear-splitting boom, and something slams into my body, blasting me back over the side. I black out. Trixie's legs burned with fatigue as she treaded water, trying to reach the ship. A sudden shriek above her drew her attention. A griffin swooped down at her and grabbed her with his talons. They painfully dug into her hide but luckily didn't draw blood. She was hoisted from the water and into the air. She tried to cast a spell, but the pain made it hard to concentrate. After a very brief flight she was thrown onto the deck of the pirate ship, coming to a hard stop that knocked the air from her lungs. Several griffins were dousing the fire she started, while others were manhandling prisoners and leading them below decks. A pair of griffins approached her with ropes. She scrambled to her hooves, bucking at the closest one. She caught him full in the face, drawing blood. The other one pounced her, knocking her back down. She kicked and bucked like mad, trying to break free. A rope snapped shut around one of her legs. She managed to throw her assailant off and regain her footing. They were wary as they approached her again. One brandished a small wooden cudgel, the other more rope. The one with the cudgel lunged at her. She evaded the blow by a hair's breadth, but in doing so left herself open to the other one, who deftly tossed the rope around her neck like a lasso. She struggled against the rope, lungs burning with exhaustion. A roar draws her attention and startled her assailants. Aaron managed to climb on board. His hulking form clawing at the railing, trying to vault it. She gave one desperate tug on the ropes and they slipped free. She dashed towards him, knowing that she'd be safe. But something caught her eye and her heart filled with dread. One of the pirates was aiming a deck gun at Aaron. She shouted a warning, but it was already too late. The small cannon boomed, and a chain shot slammed into Aaron's chest. One of the cannonballs ripped through his left arm before the chain goes taut and wraps itself around him. The momentum carried him backward and into the ocean. Trixie slammed into the railing. "Aaron, Aaron!" She screamed in mounting panic. The last thing she saw before her attackers overpowered her was Aaron's broken form as the cannonballs dragged him beneath the waves, and into the blackness below.